So when I was real little, my dad had this real good friend who he worked with. His name was Rick. He's one of those larger than life type of people. He raced motorcycles on the ice, which I don't even know how that works. He also was a stunt pilot. You know, doing the loops and the flying upside down and all that. He used to tell my dad stories of it, and he used to say that you got to be real careful to never trust your instincts, and you always got to rely on the gauges. You see, in an airplane, when you want to climb higher, you pull back on the wheel, and when you want to descend, you push forward on the wheel, except for when you're flying upside down, because then it's opposite. If you think about it, if you pull back on the wheel, when you're flying upside down, you crash straight into the ground. He used to say, you never, ever trust your instincts. You got to trust your gauges. Sadly, I'll never forget, one day we got the phone call. My dad came in the other room after getting off the phone, and his friend Rick had been doing a show as a stunt pilot, and he didn't trust his gauges. He went with his instincts, and real sad news, his plane crashed. It makes me think, I was reading something about that, about an airplane, and it made me think about that story, and it made me think about, what's our gauge? What do we use to decide where we're flying and what altitude and where we're going? What's the guide for our life? The book of Colossians talks about Christ. The Apostle Paul says, everything is by him and through him and for him, and in him all things hold together. The book of Proverbs, chapter 3, one of my favorite verses ever, says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Lean not on your own understanding, and trusting in the Lord, to me, sounds a lot like trust your gauges. Is Christ your gauge? See, this isn't a talk about being perfect and not ever doing anything stupid, because you all know me. You all know that I get it. I know what it's like. I'm right there. I do lots of stupid stuff myself. But this is about, what's our guide? What's telling us? What are we looking to tell us where we should fly and how, in the direction, and to keep us from crashing and burning? To me, the answer is Christ. He's our guide. Hey, we're less than 2 weeks away from our trip. In just over a week, we're going to be here in my backyard, right here in my fire pit, and we're going to be hanging out together for our final meeting. And then in less than 2 weeks, we're going to be in Puerto Rico. And I just want to challenge you guys once again, think about your gauges. What's your guide? What's telling you, what's your influence on where and how you should fly? My prayer is that that's Christ. My prayer for you guys over these last several weeks, I'm praying for you each by name every day, every morning. And my prayer is that God's going to work in your heart. God's going to prepare your heart for this trip. We talked a little bit about that a couple weeks ago. Prepare your hearts. Get some time in God's Word. Check out the book of Philippians. Check out the book of James. Read one of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. And spend the time now. You're going to get so much more out of the trip if you prepare your heart now. There's a great song by a band called the New Radicals called You Get What You Give. And even just the title I think about whenever I think about a trip like this is you get out of it what you give. You get out of it a lot of times what you put into it. If you hop on the plane and you have no idea where you're going and what it's going to be like, you're going to take a while to reorient. But if you're spending these last 2 weeks, some time every single day in prayer, reading God's Word, and just looking for him to speak to you and to reach into the areas of your life that you know you need him, man, your trip is going to be so much better. It's going to be an awesome trip no matter what. But in the words of the New Radicals, great song you should listen to it after this, you get what you give. You get out of it what you put into it. Hey, hope you guys have a great night. Hope you guys who are on vacation have an awesome time. And we'll see you all right here in my backyard a week from tomorrow for our final meeting. I hope you guys are great, and I can't wait to spend the time together.